What up, y'all? It's the homie Dame, and we're lucky to be living in a new era of anime/manga rom-coms. We've moved on from the endless cycle of will they, won't they, and have entered the promised land of on-screen confessions. Oh my god, cartoon characters can enter meaningful romantic relationships with each other. How exciting. Basically, this video is going to be me looking at some recent rom-com manga that have done the impossible and had their two lead characters start dating, while still continuing the story after. And also, maybe we'll talk about why authors are so hesitant to do this in the first place. So yeah, like and subscribe, let's get into it. You've probably heard of the Reiwa era before, right? For people who actually go outside and interact with the real world, it refers to the current era in Japanese history with Emperor Naruhito taking the throne. But for embarrassing weebs like us, it refers to a recent trend in anime/manga rom-coms where characters are actually allowed to get into a relationship with each other. Cause you know, I'm sure we've all read that one series where we're just screaming at the main couple to just get a room already. And then we get like 400 chapters of convoluted back and forth until they finally get together at the end. Nowadays, we could scrap all that. Get it out of the way early. 2 chapters in, they're already fucking. Now, this isn't exactly a new thing, right? There have been plenty of anime and manga that have had the principal couple enter a relationship. From Arakawa Under the Bridge to Bakemonogatari, we can see that this medium is perfectly capable of telling stories with actual romantic relationships in it. But weirdly enough, it seems that the genre you'd think would have the most of this, i.e. romance or romantic comedies, seems to shy away from it the most. We even see this in Western rom-coms. That's where the whole trope of will they, won't they comes from in the first place. But like I said, these days authors don't give a fuck anymore. They're like, okay, let's let the cartoons date each other. What's the worst that could happen? There are a bunch of new series that enter this brave new territory, but I'm gonna focus on 2 for now. The Dangers in My Heart and Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. Nagatoro had its confession scene most recently, so let's start with that. If you haven't been keeping up with Nagatoro, spoilers ahead, first off, if you didn't know. But the recent arc has basically been the lead up to the confession, right? Basically, Nagatoro has this big judo tournament and Hachioji has some art competition or something, right? I actually don't remember what his whole thing was about. I just know that this girl was introduced and she's like the best. Now, I should say Nagatoro and Hachioji are basically dating at this point, right? That's kind of how it goes in these rom-coms. Like, you know, the 2 leads are practically a couple with a house and 2 kids, and all that's needed is the formal confession. So here Nagatoro and Hachioji make an agreement where they both have to succeed at their respective competitions and they'll kiss or something after, right? This is another trope in these romance stories where a character is like, I'll tell blank my true feelings, but only if I can do this completely unrelated task. That's what our good old senpai does here. He's like, alright, in addition to this kiss, if I place first in this art competition or exam or whatever it is, I'll finally confess to Nagatoro. But while Nagatoro is able to kill it in her judo competition, Hachioji comes up short on his end of the deal. Oh no, what a disaster. If this was another series, this would be an excuse to keep blueballing the audience for another 200 chapters, but here he's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna confess anyway. Because normal people don't base their relationships around the success or failure of an arbitrary bet. So with that, we get a cute chapter that weirdly pays homage to the original webcomic that Nagatoro was based on, which, yikes. They confess to each other, and that's that. They're a couple now, and the series continues on. Now, if you watched the original Nagatoro video I made a long time ago, you'll know that this series loves to break the tropes of its genre, and this is just another example of that. And to be fair, there haven't been many chapters post-confession, at least at the time I'm making this video. But I feel like it's safe to say that the mangaka will continue to give us reasons to keep reading, even if it's just for a little bit longer. Now, let's talk about The Dangers in My Heart, which had its manga confession a while back, but the anime is airing right now, so I'd say it's relevant to talk about. This confession kind of happens a bit more naturally and, dare I say, unceremoniously, which I mean in a good way, because that's how it usually goes down in real life. I don't know about y'all, but something tells me unloading hundreds of balloons into the night sky and dressing up as Tuxedo Mask isn't exactly a common way to ask a girl out. Oh, but now that I think about it, Kaguya-sama is another series that gives us a confession and continues the story after it. Although, it's debatable whether or not it turned out well. we'll talk about that later though. Anyway, it all starts on a school trip where Kyotaro gets his act together and tells Yamada he likes her, and then a few days later, Yamada returns the favor back in the library where it all started. Funny enough, Nagatoro and Hachioji also have their origins in a library. It's something about those Japanese libraries, yeah? So there you go, it's very cute, very wholesome. Yamada gives him a kiss on the cheek, and that's it, they're a couple. And again, the series continues on. Of course, these are just two examples, like I said. You got other rom-coms like Uzaki-chan, who also had a recent confession, and more than a confession, I guess. But here's the question. Why is this even a thing in the first place? Why are so many romance stories unwilling to give the audience a confession? Well, the short answer is that in a lot of cases, it would just end the story. For a lot of series, the confession is the destination. When you get there, there's no point in continuing, so for an author who has a successful, long-running series, you kind of want to hold off on that confession until you're really ready to end your moneymaker. The cold hard truth is that a lot of rom-coms rely on the will they, won't they dynamic. That's like their whole premise, so you can't really fault an author for not wanting to pull the trigger and get a confession going. For all the shit Rent-A-Girlfriend gets, you gotta respect Reiji's ability to constantly dance around the inevitable confession between Kazuya and Mizuhara. That's because a series like Rent-A-Girlfriend is predicated on the idea that Kazuya and Mizuhara aren't a real couple. If they start dating, the series is over. There's no rental girlfriend anymore, it's just girlfriend. In the same way, the whole premise of a series like The Quintessential Quintuplets is that we have to find out which of the 5 Nakano sisters marries Futaro. That's like the whole point, right? That's how the manga starts out. And that's why the series ends when we do find out and get a confession scene, because that was the goal of this series, right? That's all we needed to see. Now, I mentioned Kaguya-sama earlier, and you'd think it'd be the same case there, right? For as good as a series as Kaguya-sama Love is War is, it's also based around the whole premise of 2 tsunderes who can't confess to each other. The entire series, the foundation of it is them not being together, but they want to be together. So when they do confess, why continue the story? This is where Kaguya-sama is a bit unique, because they had like a million plot points to tie up after the confession happened, which is why it kept going. But even a die-hard fan like me who loves the series can admit that the series felt like it lost its spark and was just going through the motions, trying to tie up loose ends like it was an obligation or something. But a series like The Dangers in My Heart isn't based on any convoluted premise like that. It's just big girl and tiny dude hang out and have goofy interactions. That's it. Yamada and Ichikawa starting to date doesn't change this dynamic in any way, so the series doesn't have to end once they start dating. In fact, it only increases the amount of fun situations that the writer can put them in. Because I mean, think about it. If there was no romantic element to The Dangers in My Heart and it was just about a tall, bubbly person messing around with some little gloomy person, regardless of what gender they are, I think it'd still be fun to read. It's the same deal with Nagatoro. The only elements you need for the story are Nagatoro lovingly teasing her senpai. Them starting to date for real doesn't have to change this dynamic, and again, it only creates opportunities for new fun moments. The fundamental premise that these series are based on isn't ever threatened by a confession. There's no fear that things will end after that because what makes the series what it is going away or something. This is the key for new rom-coms in the Reiwa era. You gotta create a story that gives characters meaningful development and motivation beyond just getting to a confession. At least if you want to continue your story past that and have people care about it. Because don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with something like We Never Learn ending it once the confession happens, or plural confessions. But even still, you see a lot of authors struggling to figure out what to do after giving us the big moment. A lot of times they just switch focus to another side couple, like what happened in Kaguya-sama. Or like in My Senpai is Annoying, they have the side couple get together before the main couple, and it, I don't know, kind of takes the wind out of the sails for the whole series. I don't know. But yeah, it's just interesting to think about. Y'all let me know what you think of confessions in rom-com, manga, and anime. Leave it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this quick video, leave a like and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel for whatever reason, hit up Patreon. I just started watching Ninja Kamui on there, so if you want to see some full-length, uncut reactions, go over there and donate. But otherwise, that's the video. Peace. Rent-A-Girlfriend is the exception to all of this though, because that series is flawless. And any direction my glorious king Reiji Miyajima decides to take the series in is the right one. We could be in the year 2030 with Rent-A-Girlfriend in its like 2000th chapter with Kazuya and Mizuhara still doing the same old dance, and I'd be like, this is peak. This is my shit.